We're just over a week into the launch of New World, and I wanted to take a moment to kind of discuss some of the pros and cons of the early game. We're talking like the first 20 levels. So in these are going to be the first things you would experience if you jumped in right now. My name is Redbeard Flynn. I'm an author, YouTuber, and streamer. I stream on Twitch Thursdays at 7 p.m. CST and Sundays at 3:30 p.m. CST. Please come and say hi. So getting right into it, the pros, right? The pros are the servers are stable, the world feels real and a bit untamed. PvP adds a thrill by adding higher stakes to PvP quests and higher rewards. Leveling feels just about right. It takes time, but not too much time. You feel accomplished without feeling like you're just butting your head up against the wall. But this, I think, is a little bit of personal preference. So I'll just say this is, for me, it feels about right. The sound design and music are incredible. It may be the best I've ever heard in an MMO, and that's not hyperbole. That's just, it may be the best I've seen in it, or seen. You don't see sound. The best I've heard in an MMO. Speaking of seeing, the game itself is beautiful and it runs very smoothly. It's not on the same level perhaps as Black Desert Online, but that's on its own plane of existence, I think. New World is approaching that though. The way that they did lighting, I think it's interesting because the way that New World has utilized lighting and the way that Valheim utilized lighting, and then the movement of foliage, those two things together have improved the graphical fidelity of both of those games so much more than I would have ever thought possible. Lighting, shadows, those kind of things. You level up from so many sources: quests, exploration, harvesting, fighting. It makes it feel like no matter what you're doing, you're progressing, which I think is a fantastic thing. I haven't felt that really since Guild Wars 2, I think, is the last game that made me feel that way. ESO tried a little bit, but there was some differences. I had moments of genuine wonder running around the game, finding old relic locations, learning a bit more about the story and the civilization that existed before. Different locations have a distinct feel, whether it's the color of trees, different grass types, or different geometry. It's often a subtle change leading into a greater change. It feels you just kind of end up in this new place. It's done very well. So now, the cons, in no particular order. The server caps are small, leading to very long queues. NPCs, specifically NPCs you hunt, are far too rare. This is a problem highlighted by the number of people doing these quests and by a harvesting system that rewards first click to harvest, not kill credit or first hit or anything like that, especially when the things run away from you. Level 25 or close to level 25 feels too high to have really start the first group content. A level 10 dungeon or level 15 dungeon would go a long way in making this feel more like an MMO sooner. Inventory management can also be a pain point, but it's not terrible. They see this as potential monetization choice for Amazon games in the future, like Elder Scrolls Online, which I personally see as a negative, even though it's prolific in these type of games. There's a lot of skills to manage, and it feels like if you don't take time to work on them, you'll leave some behind. I definitely went back and, while doing the main story quest, realized that my harvesting wasn't high enough, and then my mining wasn't high enough, and so there was definitely things that I was like, oh, I didn't do this. They do give you a workaround by just being able to buy things, but for me personally, I wanted to get it done myself. I wanted to have those skills. So you do feel like you leave some behind unless you're being conscious of where your skills are at and not passing up that boulder or not passing up that tree if you need to level. As with every game, there's resource disconnect. Iron feels more rare than it should be when compared to, say, raw hides or lumber. Silver doubly so. Resources with impact should be more rare, but I think the balance could be tweaked a little bit. Either make some other things a little more rare or make those less rare. It seems a little weird when you have the building block resources for certain things having that much difference in rarity. In short, or long, however you take this, the game is absolutely gorgeous. More than once I had to just stop and admire it. Some of the mobs have incredible animations for an MMO and interesting attack patterns. Combat still feels exciting 20 plus levels in, and harvesting, crafting, and exploring all feel properly rewarding, not like chores. The game has addictive qualities in a good way, perhaps, depending on how you look at it, like MMOs should. The servers are stable, and by the weekend, queues on many worlds had greatly subsided. I have been impressed with server stability most of all, especially the smoothness experienced in-game. This is not usual to me with an MMO launch. Oh, and the sound design is freaking incredible. Just imagine like hearing this. You know, like it's just there are so many, like you just hear so many things that you don't expect to. It needs to be mentioned over and over. The sonic boom from the abominations, the echo from mining, the change in footsteps over different terrain, and the fact that sounds change based on the distance to your character. Bravo, because this deserves a freaking reward. On the negative side, yes, queues are still a thing for many, and if you're like me, you probably opted to re-roll on a less populated server, even after progressing a bit on another. The variety of mob types continues to concern me, but less so in previous videos, because as you do level, you do see more variety. It's the early levels that you really feel like, oh, it's the same wolf. Oh, it's the same boar. Oh, it's the same zombie. It's clear in a lot of ways that they went for quality over quantity. The animations and visuals are impressive, but sometimes overused. And finally, even with full servers, the world does feel empty in places and busy in others. It's a bit of a strange dynamic, with towns feeling sometimes too small and open wilderness feeling too empty. The latter, though, does sometimes contribute to the beauty of the game, so I don't know how much of that is a con. New World has exceeded my expectations, and I believe I found a game that will have some staying power. One of the most interesting things to me will be to see where this game goes with additional post-launch content. Is it too early to be talking about expansions? Probably, but it's still really interesting to talk about. My name is Redbeard Flynn, and if you've made it this far in the video, hopefully you enjoyed it enough to leave a like right down there. It helps out a ton, and lets me know that the content I'm creating is something you're enjoying. Oh yeah, one more thing. Swimming. What the